This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, it's 4:30. So we'll start the Roswell Infrastructure Committee meeting. Today is Monday, January the 22nd. And so want to welcome everybody, committee members and people in attendance and anybody that is joining us online. Welcome to all. And if I can just remind the people that are present to please sign in, make sure that we got your name on the sign in list, please. And also, we have a pretty lengthy agenda,
We get out of here by 9?
9:30.
9.
It just depends as to the presenters. I'll just put pressure on
Really quick.
presenters. Let the record reflect that all committee members are present, please. And if I can have a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Just a matter of correction, if we can add the item number 17, which is an addendum. If we can add it right after item E7. Does anybody have any objection to that? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and add item 17 will be included after item E7.
And right here.
And then we've got the, if I can have a motion for approval of the minutes. I know that none of us were here. It's all a new committee, so we'll accept, you were here in the old committee?
That was the chair.
Oh, okay, well,
There you go. Make the motion.
you can make the motion.
Second.
Got a motion to approve the minutes and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried unanimously. And we'll dive in directly into the non-action items. We'll start with action item E2, which is a project update discussion. McCormick?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You would go to the next slide, please. Mr. Chairman, committee members, just wanted to provide a quick update on some of our projects. So here's some pictures from the dewatering project out at the wastewater plant. You can see the asphalt drying beds in. You can see some of the sidewalks been installed, and they're working on dirt work for the driveway on the front of the building. So that project's progressing. We are going to have some delays due to material delivery issues, but that's related to one of our other action items. Next slide, please. This is a picture from the bridge out on Mescalero, out by the country club. So you can see the precast boxes are in, and they're working on forming up rebar and forms for the wing walls. So that project's progressing well. Slide. And here's a picture. Obviously, I'm sure everybody knows we've started the project on Atkinson, Cherry to College. So the traffic controls in place, detours in place, and we're working on the water line replacement right now. And I'll stand for any questions on those or any other projects that we've got going on.
Committee members, does anybody have any questions concerning this item?
What do you, Mr. Chairman, what do you guys, I stopped and talked with the guys there on Atkinson. They said it was going to be about 6 months. When I stopped out there on the bridge project, out there probably at lunchtime, whenever it was on break, but what kind of time frame are we looking at on completion of that project?
Yes, sir, on the Mescalero Bridge, sometime in the spring, March, April time.
5 months, 4 months?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
Which is kind of related to it, but it's not. The last time I was the infrastructure committee chair, I was pushing for the expansion or have an idea of what to do with expanding the wastewater treatment center or treatment plant. And so just for your information, and I'm going to be talking to Louis, I want to continue having a report on whether we can secure property out there. I know we had been talking to the property owner.
Okay.
And kind of came to an agreement, but then the ball was not kept alive, and now I'm not sure where we're at with the expansion of the treatment centers, but I'm going to keep pushing this
Yeah.
until we can get an answer whether we can secure that property or we can't secure the property.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not aware of all the history that's went into that, but I'll do some research and see what I can find.
Chairman, I think when we were out there doing our tour of the facility, that was part of our conversation out there, that was still being worked on and was moving forward, but I may be wrong about that.
Mr. Chair, if I may, this is Lorenzo Sanchez, the Utility
There he
Director.
is.
Thank you for Lorenzo. There he is.
I will follow up with that at your direction now. We haven't followed up, but we have discussed getting with, I believe I know the owner passed away, so we need to follow up with whoever owns the property now and see what we can do with that. But I will follow up with that and I'll give you a report.
Okay, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome, Mr. Chair.
Any committee members have any additional comments or questions? Any?
Chair, I have a question on the Atkinson and Cherry project. I noticed it was awarded at 3.3, but the budget's 3.2 with a little bit of difference. Is that going to be caught up later, or is there a plan in action to correct that? It's like short 134.
I'll dig into that and find out.
Yeah, I just noticed that. It just looked funny. And that's it. That's it. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks, sir.
Anybody else? And any attending counselors may have any questions? The other question that I do have is the Cherry to College. Is that going to include just water lines, or is that going to include sewer lines, or
Mr. Chairman, just water lines on this project.
unless you find out something different?
That's right.
Mr. Chair, if I may interject again, we
Yes,
do
sir.
expect some manholes. We're waiting on estimates on rehabbing the manholes because they're not actual sewer lines, they're just crossings. So we're looking at getting those rehabbed, and we do have money for that currently on our manhole rehab project.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I
sir.
do have a question. At the last infrastructure meeting, it was approved, we did it at city council, I believe, the mill and fill project for $1 million. The original line item was for $1.5 million. It was asked that the staff go back and increase that bid at least to $1.2 million, but maybe to the $1.5 million. I want to know what the status of that is at this point in time.
Okay.
I'll follow up on that as well. As I'm sure you know, Louis Nahar, he's off with his daughter with that medical issue.
Yeah.
But I'll dig into that and find out where we're at and what we need to do to get some more roads added to that.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anybody attending public have any questions? No?
Chair, I have one more, real quick. We have the micro seal roads. Is there any way I could get a copy of the roads that we're going to microseal?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Just a list of those roads.
Yep, yes, sir. Would everybody like it on the committee?
Actually, I'd like the mill and fill if we could get those as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it would be a good thing for all counselors.
All counselors
not
to
just
have
the committee.
That way there, we all know kind of what's getting
I actually
filled.
thought you guys sent one out. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, excuse me. I thought I've received something like that.
I went
don't
through
remember
everything and I would
receiving
love to see.
No, I meant last year.
Oh, last year.
Yeah, so, okay, yeah, that's why I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
I think Lewis had it on a schedule and was looking at one project per ward
Right. Yes, sir.
for the year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yes, sir. That's accurate.
Is that what you're talking about?
That needs to be
Yeah.
updated then, I think.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, would it be beneficial?
Let me call on
Well, I
Councilman.
didn't know you were going to,
Yeah.
I don't care.
It needs to be updated because we've had a bunch of work done. And the other thing that I think would be helpful is possibly this committee now start deciding what needs to be done next year, because here in April, we're going to start the budget process. So I think that maybe you all could play a big role in that and make some decisions early on.
Well, I think that's a discussion we're gonna have to have, because the plan was the previous council came up with that plan. And obviously we have to discuss it and see if we really want to go with that plan or not, because there's some roads that need to be fixed like now, as opposed to, one in each ward. And in my personal opinion, I think you have to address the ones that really need to be repaired and put money into those projects. Yes,
I think Mr. Nahar would actually be very beneficial in kind of helping us, because
Yes.
he has a lot of that built into his head. And Mr. McCormick here would actually be, we could all learn that system, how he's pulling those, because as I understand, it's kind of like he has a running in his head is what's been done, what's not been done. But you're exactly right, because there are some roads that need it now.
especially in
Yes.
District
One. Exactly.
I'm
And
just
that,
kidding.
no, I'm kidding.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying, actually, that would be an interesting workshop if you,
Yeah, we can do a workshop.
Yep.
We can set up a workshop and.
Yeah, Chair, he has a survey that you guys use, a condition pavement survey that they go by, and it's prioritized. And I think it just would be nice if it was shared with all of us, along with the agenda item of what's going to be worked on next, and so on and so forth. An updated one, if you will.
I think that one of the things that we need to do in order to get this information out to all the counselors is not maybe have a infrastructure workshop and invite everybody to come
Great
in
idea.
and obviously not have any action taken at that point, but just have that discussion.
yes.
So we may look at that and see where it goes. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, is that something we can add to our Monday workshop? Was that one already going to be? No.
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 Yeah.
You're going to bring the midnight oil?
I think you need to talk to the gentleman right next to you.
Turn around, it won't hurt us.
That's why I was asking to harass him.
I think that's gonna be a pretty, it's gonna take a lot of time.
I know.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, before Mr. Corn interrupted me.
Counselor,
Can you get a list of the roads that are under the current plan? It would be nice if it was overlaid on a map of the city, instead of just giving us street names. So if it could be overlaid on a map of the city, that might be beneficial just to look at the map and take a look at it that way.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's easy enough to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, we can move on to the next item. The airport infrastructure update.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Councilors. I'm just going to update you on some of the projects. A lot of them have not moved much. Those two items, have not moved at all. But we are looking at trying to do something with the first item in FY25. And airport master plan, we're still waiting on the second working papers from the engineer. Again, I reached out to a team of technical advisors on that, and some of them have not been really receptive to give us back some information. So I did try to have them, participate. That list was selected by the mayor. We are about 90% done with the PER for 1735. The strategic plan, we're fixing to have our second stakeholder meeting February 20th. The ILEA HVAC upgrade, the actuators, they began installing the actuators last week. Hopefully by the end of this week, they will be done. If not, close to being completed. There is a second delegation going to be starting this week as well. The Southeast Water Line Phase 2, HDR has been contracted to design Phase 2. That will be coordinated through the city engineering department. The terminal expansion, we're putting a list of priorities that we'd like to see done with those funds. The airfield electrical vaults. We currently have 2. They were installed in the 50s by the Air Force. Had our engineer on site for those 2 weeks. He's going to revamp the whole wiring system. We don't even have a map showing us where lines are. So he's working really hard on that. But when we get into the design, we're looking at going into just making one vault at a location that will be large enough to control all the lighting on the airfield, including all the circuits. And then we need the BLM taxi lane and the slurry pit. Both of those are kind of being worked on by the engineer now. We have geotech has been done. And we should start seeing some movement on those as well. Stand for any questions? Mr. Chair.
Councilor.
So the strategic plan, if I remember correctly, was Mead & Hunt was chosen for that. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Who are the stakeholders?
There's 3 groups of stakeholders.
Okay.
We have the airport is one.
Okay.
We have city county leaders. Then we have tenants.
Okay. And on the airport, you said who's all on that?
Myself, Jenna, Don Fisher, Bud Kunko, John Hitchcock, Councilors Horn, and Hilbert.
Which tenants?
On the tenants,
Yes.
we have air sale. That's going to be the list is very extensive on that.
Okay. No worries.
We're also selected that one.
Okay.
And as far as the stakeholders that are city, county, we have a Dana. We have a big list of those.
Okay, that's good. Just a couple, and the focus of that is to?
With a 5-year plan.
Very good. It's been a minute since I knew we were doing detailed.
I can get you to the list.
No, this is all I need. This is good. Thank you very much. And so once that meeting is over, there will be a presentation to us as what came out on the strategic plan, or?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that may be reported by Bud Kunkel, his usual.
Well, a 5-year plan, I
Report.
would hope would be a little more extensive unless, I mean, Bud can throw that up there and do some,
Yeah. I think it's still a ways.
Yes,
yes, I'm sure.
but they anticipate having it completed somewhere around August, September.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members? From Counselors attending? Anybody attending the meeting here? Anybody online have any questions? And if not, we'll go to the next item, E4, facilities department update.
Chairman, Daniel just texted me, he's dealing with emergency at the convention center on the gas leak.
Okay.
So he's unable to be here. I can share a little bit of information that he reported to us this morning. The DEC had installed the 3 new units on the museum on Thursday, Friday last week. We're working on that and they're aggressive approach to dealing with our roof maintenance. And they've been successful. They got a truck from the fire department, the brush trucks, so they're able to wash off roofs and do some preventive maintenance on the roof. So we're really focusing heavy on the preventive maintenance. That's about what I know of that. He wanted to say he was sorry he's dealing with that emergency over here.
Any questions, committee members? Any questions by additional counselors? Anybody in attendance? Anybody online? That was quick. Water rate study.
Down here to the end of the table. So we're gonna go through these pretty quick, since we have that workshop on Monday. What I really want you to do is just kind of see if there's any questions or information that I need to get additionally for that workshop. So the water rate study, how we got here. So we were looking through the budget back in June last year, and there was budgeted $150,000 for water and wastewater rate studies. I've done rate studies before. I went to Councilor Korn, city manager, said, why are we paying $150,000 to get this done? There's a book, you follow the book, do what it tells you to do. We can do it in-house. So they authorized us to attempt to do that, see if we could make that savings. And so we started down that road. Next slide. Over the past 6 months, we've been working on this. It's taken a lot of time and a lot of help from just about all the departments to get information on this. This was done in conjunction with a revision to Chapter 26, the municipal code for water and wastewater utilities. We started that 18 months ago. So, and this committee, not these members, but this committee, except for Councilor Arnold, you know, we went through that chapter by chapter and made revisions to that. Following some brief overview of what we found. So the nuts and the bolts of the study was to develop a 5-year financial plan for the water department and possibly wastewater. Analysis of the water customer service class cost from 2024 through 2028, and then to design a rate structure. And originally we were going to try and get it to start January of this year, but because of some issues that we had, we put it off. And now we're hoping to get it to start July 1st of this year. Next slide. When you get right down into it, this is what the rates look like. Currently, so for a basic 3/4 inch meter, our rate right now is $19.79. our new rate would go up quite a bit, actually.
Mhm.
Let me get to the right page here so I can see what I'm talking about. So $19.73, we're proposing a rate increase of $7.27. New rate would be $27. So that's the base where everything starts from. And then it goes up according to meter size. And then across is the consumption rates. You continue to get your first 3,000 gallons free, or it's included in your base rate. And then from there, it goes up. 3,000 to 6,000 is $3.22 per thousand. And then it goes up accordingly across that rate. Any questions on the rates? Okay, next slide. This is my water bill for last month. Under the current bill, now it shows you there that my total water was $36.15. Under this proposal, it would go up to $48.24 for the same service. You've got the access fee that goes from $19.73 to $27. The consumption fee goes from $16.42 up to $21.21. So basically at my house, it would be a 33.44% increase. Next slide. Your question?
That was me. I wanted to take a picture of that last slide. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Mr. Chairman, Robert, while she's getting a picture, when was the last time the city of Bronzeville saw a substantial water increase of this nature? I mean, I keep hearing people say, my water's been going up. Why is it going to go up again?
What they've done in the past is every year it was adjusted by the CPI.
Okay.
I actually do not know when the last rate study was done. We went back and looked and cannot find when an actual rate study was completed and implemented.
If I remember correctly, the CPI was voted on in 2013, 2014.
10 years ago.
And the reason that they included a CPI was because that way there would not be a big increase in 5 or 10, 15 years, whatever. But if I remember the conversation correctly, it was also to avoid an increase, an additional increase other than the CPI on a yearly basis. So in answer to your question, I think it was in 2013, 2014, in that time frame is when the rates went up substantially. And then again, the discussion was we won't have a big increase again. But now I look at it at 50.
The problem is the CPI didn't ever keep up.
But that was the whole intent of adding the CPI, that it would keep the rates pretty even every year.
And it also depends on which CPI you use. Because there's 100 different ones out there. And there is one specifically for utility construction, utility infrastructure, and it was not used. And there was a lot of difference. Through COVID, our prices went nuts, and they're still up there. There's this one valve that we have to buy. It's a cork valve is what they call it. It goes on the main. It went from like $75, and I think now we're paying $245 for it. Anything that's brass is just horrible.
Thank you.
So small commercial, We set small commercial up the same as residential, mostly because it's the mom and pop stores downtown. They're gonna have a toilet and a sink. They work a lot like the residentials. It's, you know, they put the same stress on the system. So that's why they're set up the same as the residential. Next one. Then we go to our large commercials. We have never charged the large commercial adequately. The large commercials are the ones that put the biggest stress on the system. They use over the 50,000 gallons of water per month. And we've always just treated them the same as the residents. You're trying to compare Grandma Smith on the corner with Walmart. And the stress that those businesses put on the system is totally different. So this adjusts for that. Next slide. Hydrant meters, that was changed to go in line with the other, the commercial rate structures. All that was adjusted on there was the fee for a 3-inch meter. It'll be the same for a 3-inch hydrant meter. Next. Lawn irrigation meters, we have those. We have never done a good job of keeping track of them. People use them and a lot of the businesses use them because you can use that for irrigation and then it's not figured onto your wastewater bill. Since that is not going back into the system in wastewater. So we're proposing moving that out and charging the appropriate rate. It's just the same as a residential. Because again, it doesn't put a horrible stress on the system. Next. So we have some concerns with this rate study. Reoccurring costs are partially funded by consumption revenue. It's not really the way you're supposed to do it. The reoccurring costs should come out of your base rate. When I started putting the numbers in, that drove the base rate way up. So because of that, the consumption revenue is based on estimates. Since we're not able to provide accurate consumption numbers out of the Tyler system. The estimates are calculated using the midpoint on the consumption rates. I chose middle of the road and ran with it because we do not have good information on that. The other thing is we don't know how the new rates will affect the customer's use of water. If they start getting charged more for the water, are they going to use less of it? Which if they do, then our production costs should go down. The other thing is we currently don't have a full year of base numbers coming out of COVID. Still don't have really good numbers on that. And we're starting to implement the debt collection and the check stuff now. We don't know how that's going to play out. Next. There's a large number of assumptions made in the rate study due to not having the accurate information. Some of the stuff that we need to do is diligently make improvements to the Tyler utility billing system and use it to its full capacity. We're using a small part of it and it's not doing us any good. We need to get rid of the excuse of this is the way it was set up. That was set up several years ago. Why haven't we fixed it? It needs to be fixed. We need to move forward. We need to get this information. We need to improve our read rate that we have through Itron and get working on the file that does the conversion from Itron to Tyler. Again, we've known about this issue. We keep on saying, yeah, it's a Tyler issue. Yeah, it's an Itron issue. Well, on both of these, it's now not their issue, it's our issue. And we should have no excuses on why it's like it is. These Tyler issues have been going on for at least 2 years. They're no longer Tyler issues, they're ours. And we need to get them corrected. Next slide. Recommendations is to adopt the new rate ordinance to meet the needs of the water utility into the future We need to start reinvesting in our infrastructure. And we need to start in our fund reserves. Right now, if we have a major water break, we're going to come to the general fund because we just don't have the money. One of the things that this proposal does is creates restricted fund accounts within the budget. The emergency repair fund, the infrastructure reinvestment fund, capital outlay fund, bad debt assistance program fund. It limits how that money can be moved. And the way it's set up is those are restricted accounts. They can only be used for certain things without council action. They can't just be moved out and, we're going to pay for the police department this year with $2 million out of the water fund. And we need to fix all our issues with Tyler and Itron. Next. So any questions or concerns as we move forward on this one? Sir.
The question I have is, what do you anticipate the number of meters being turned off because of the rate? Is it going to increase more than what it is right now? I would think.
I don't know. I think it also, I'm not sure if we're talking about this or not. We're starting up, we have a share program that we'd like to get going that allows people to donate to help people that are in emergencies. I think we also need to approach the state because they do have funding to help people. The way it works right now is miserable. I think we can see if we can work with the state to get it better. I think we are going to have some problems though. But I think if we can keep working our way through it, I think we can survive it. But this is going to, I'll admit, this is going to be a hit to a lot of households. But do we, honestly, it's either now or next week or next month. At some point in time, we will be spending that money. Where it comes from is what the choices are we're making now.
You have a question?
So are you actually planning an assessment like within a year or two because a lot of the propositions here you can have, they come out with a good intent to create, the revenue that we need to actually stay on course. But at the same time, there's going to be so many variables that occur. I think it would behoove us to actually be prudent and monitor and analyze the outcome of this action.
What has come out of the finance committee is that we want to review it at least at 6 months.
Okay.
And do a formal, we come back, present it to all the committees, present it to council and say, this is where we're at. We recommend to do this. We recommend to stay with where we're at, raise, lower, do what we need to do.
I love that idea.
In 6 months, we should, so we would look at implementing in July and then doing a review on it in December.
Nice. Great Christmas present.
Yeah.
So second part, this is actually towards city admin as well. I've come across Tyler concerns almost in every department, not in the same kind of statement. We're not using it to its full capabilities. We're paying for a product and in some instances, Tyler is not necessarily delivering or we're not accessing it. And so I just kind of want to say, considering that this is probably now the 5th, 6th time I've heard that there's an issue with Tyler, I think it would be prudent of us to actually assess how beneficial our relationship with Tyler is, what we need to do to actually get on top of that, because I think we could streamline a lot of our processes if we're utilizing Tyler properly. A lot of our antiquated systems that we have in play could actually be removed and reallocated through Tyler. So I think there's a lot to Tyler that can actually help us, but I know there's been some talk about using statewide programs and that type of stuff. But anyway, I just wanted to make that vocal because you're the 6th one who's told me that Tyler is an issue for our, so thank you.
And everything that we've come across with that is it was not set up properly by us.
Correct, yes.
We went through the inventory module setting it up over at the warehouse. And that was the roadblock that we kept running into, was the finance system was not set up properly. But Tyler spent the time and walked us through and got our program running for us.
Well, so there, in other instances, it's been with our community development as far as trying to get like a customer service management system. There's capabilities there, but there's a hole. And so there's also a couple more, but anyway, just assessing that because we are paying for it. We have paid for it. And so I think it would be beneficial for us to stay on top of that. I just wanted to make that vocal. So thank you.
Have any members? Councilor Kevin?
Mr. Chairman, Robert, you define a large commercial by using Walmart and then your small commercial, mom and pop. Where do our restaurants like Peppers and Cattle Baron and Tijuana's and everybody fall into that? Are they still?
They're going to most of the bigger restaurants will go into the large commercial. The breaking point is 50,000 gallons per month.
Okay.
Over a 12-month period.
All right, that's the breaking point. All right, I just wanted. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else? Committee members have any questions? And I know it's just preliminary. We're going to be going over this.
The numbers in here are solid. Everything, this is a final stuff. So we'll go over it again on Monday and go into depth, answer questions and go anywhere that you want with it.
Okay, anybody attending the meeting have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairperson and city councilors, Robert, are all of the water meters operational?
Water meters work.
Okay.
We've had 4 issues with water meters since I started here. And we've been able to figure out what happened, send it back to the company. They honored their warranties on it, and we made the adjustments with the customers. The set valves are a whole different story. The set valves are the valve that's beyond the meter that was supposed to make it so we could automatically shut people off remotely. They don't work. They never did work. We paid a whole bunch of money for them, and now the company has declared bankruptcy. That was one of the things, one of the other cities I work for, we did beta testing for Census water meters, one of the 4 big companies that do water meters. They gave it up because they could not make it work. And when those companies like that go, yes, it just isn't there yet. Buying it from somebody that's just brand new into it was not a good idea.
So we're stuck with it. So.
We're stuck with them and we're basically pulling them out now.
And you're replacing them with what?
Nothing. You don't have to have them. They were never a requirement. It was sold as a bill of goods that said, hey, we're going to make your life a lot easier. We'll put in 14,000 of these and you can sit at your desk and shut off somebody's water.
That's what we were told.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be binging off of the water tower. And everything was supposed to work fantastic. I touch you one button and if you had a real small leak, it would show up. And
that we still have.
You would still be.
We still have that ability. We have the ability. We didn't buy that module.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not working though.
We didn't buy it.
Well, I thought we did.
It's built into the meter and we can go in and I can put my puck on somebody's meter and I can pull it up on my computer and I can tell them what they're using every minute of the day. But to do that remotely from the office or being able to have the customer pull it up in their home, we don't have the software installed to make that happen.
Mr. Chair. So I can recall several years ago when this was sold to the community, and it's my understanding, Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, that was part of the sales portion of this, was that the cost savings in staff not having to go physically out to the location, shut off or turn on, we would be able to use those cost savings to essentially pay the bond payment on these. And so what I'm hearing is that doesn't work. What I've also heard in recent months is not only does that not work, but there's some issue with the set valve opening and closing all the way. So that causes pressure problems.
Yes, because they're set up right now to do an automatic cycle to supposedly keep it so it works good. Our water here is hard enough that, it'll either open partially or close partially, and then it sticks.
But I don't think the public is aware of those issues that we've seen from the city side. I can tell you that it was more than $18 million in bond debt at the time to bring those units in. And we'll be paying on that until, I believe, 2037.
Yeah, well, we were told
Yeah.
at that time that the city would not even have to dig in to pay for the water meters because they were going to pay on their own with the readings, the accurate readings would make up the money in order to pay for the water system. And so I think nine of us were convinced that was going to be it, and one of us was not. And I think the vote was 9-1, and that's how we ended up with this system.
Now we've turned it over to the legal department to see what they can claw back for us.
You had a question?
Well, I think they've kind of been answered, because I was actually wondering how much, I was actually going to ask the chair of finance and Ed or yourself, how much is left on that 18 million? Because
We
clearly,
just started.
Still 18 million.
still 18 million.
Yep. Well, because you got to add interest,
Sure.
and that wasn't calculated at the time.
Okay. So, and when is when is that paid off? It's like 2037?
2037? Yeah, it's
Actually,
25 years out.
if I remember correctly, it's
So,
$18,751,000.
okay, just like I just feel like I bought a lemon. Okay, upside down. Roger.
Upside down and no place to dig the hole.
Well, right. And if we have any issues, then we have to take on, because that is, you have set valves that aren't working and we're not even using them, and we still have to pay. I get that's the clawback probably from the legal, but yeah, if we wanted to change anything or repair it, we would just have to tack the next millions.
The one thing that they're still reviewing though is we have a contract with the company that started the whole thing. That was supposed to be over it is called Year Out.
Yes.
Yeah. They had some guarantees in there,
Okay, good.
and we're seeing what we can do about those guarantees.
Nice. Thank you.
Good. Any counselors? Anybody else? Anybody online? I guess not. So we'll move on. And we'll get a more in-depth information. Are you through?
Nope, we still have the wastewater.
Oh, okay.
I handed out a mock-up of what the new utility bill will look like. One of the things that we want to do on that is get more information out to the public on where their money goes, how it's spent, and what some of the other fees and stuff are. So that's what that's about. That one, if you could bring to that meeting on Monday with any suggestions. After we kind of get it down, we're going to get it to the school teachers that are third, fourth, fifth grade level and have them go through and massage it and make sure that it's written in a language that everybody understands, not just me.
Great.
We want to make sure that there's no technical stuff in there, that jargon that could get in the way.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Councilor Corn's got a question.
Yes, sir.
I was looking at that, I've looked at it 2 or 3 times just in the last few minutes. I didn't see in, on your breakout on the backside, which I think is key to this understanding. I didn't note that there's anything for lack of collection of bad debt.
This is done as option 1, and we'll talk about option 1 and option 2 going into this rate study.
Well, I just like my own soapbox. You know, some people don't pay their water bill because they think they're stealing from the city, but really they're stealing from their neighbors.
Yes.
And I think we need to maybe add that in there. I don't know how you figure that
Well,
out.
it all depends on what option the council decides to take with the
Okay.
ordinance. And then we can run with that. We'll talk about that after this one.
Okay.
So the wastewater utility study, next slide. Same stuff. After we got done with the water study, the bosses decided, let's do the wastewater study. We started working on this one in December, and this one was a little more complicated, mostly because I did not know the water budget. So we had to do a little bit more collaborating and going over stuff. The next slide. So we've done this over the last 2 months. We did it in conjunction with rewriting that section of ordinance. And this is what we found. Next slide. Again, our goal was to develop a financial plan for the next 5 years. We wanted to go through from 2024 through 2028. And then once we got that done, we needed to do a rate structure design for that same period. Next. So there we talk about option 1 and option 2, and you'll see it through this study. You didn't see it in the water study because we were already done with it before this came up. Option 1 is to have the customer accounts would all have to remain in the name of the property owner where the account is. It would not be allowed to be put in a tenant's name, a renter's name, anything like that. What this allows us to do is if the bill is not paid, then we can lien the property because it is in the property owner's name. Option 2 would base it and allow it to have in the resident or the tenant's name. The problem with this is by state law, if it's in the tenant's name, we cannot lien the property. So the only other way the only recourse that we have for getting our money back is to send it to debt collection, which a lot of these people just don't care. Yes.
Mr. Chair, could you actually, as far as option 2, is there a way to put it in both names, noting both names?
I don't know.
But because, that way your door is open, but at most renters, if they want to do that, then maybe there's something that the property owner could sign off on as far as allowing it.
All it says is that what the law says is if it's in the tenant's name, you can't hold the landlord responsible. It's pretty cut and dry.
Can you say that again?
If the bill is in the tenant's name, you cannot hold the landowner responsible.
Okay.
But if you leave it in the landowner's name, then the tenant, then it can become a lien on the property.
But if you're a landowner I don't see why you would want to keep it in your name.
Well, and that's,
If the tenants, I mean, if you got tenants that are not willing to pay, I mean, they can pay 3-4 months after they moved in, and then all of a sudden,
but then it's the landowner's name to collect. It's his responsibility to collect that money, not ours. So they would just put it as part of the rent.
Right, if you would, you just want to add it into the rent. That's the objective here. Just saying.
I'm not sold on that you would penalize a landowner because of the tenant's ability not to pay.
So then if you look at it this way, the landowner is running this as a business. They're making money off of it. And when their tenant doesn't pay us, it costs all of us money instead of just that landowner. If you make the landowner responsible, then they're going to make sure that that bill gets paid, or they're going to get a new tenant.
Mr. Chair, we've actually had this discussion over and over again because I have the same issue, because it could be flipped also where your landlord doesn't pay your water. As a tenant, your water gets shut off.
Yeah.
You can't even come up here and fix it because it's not in your name. So this is a quandary all the way around in several, and so it's something that Robert will probably say that we have talked about over and over because it's a pickle.
And I can argue this one either way.
Yep.
And come up with a good argument.
Absolutely.
But it comes down to, how do we want to make sure that we're collecting the money? Do we want to make sure that we have a way to do it? Or do we want to base it on debt collection? Now, the other thing with basing it on debt collection is then we have to add another line into our numbers here, because we have to budget for that uncollected debt. And everybody gets to pay into that line item for the uncollected debt. So if you look on this one right here, option 1 shows that the rate is $26.50. And that is if the account is in the landowner's name. If we let it be in the resident's name, it goes up to $27.25, because we have to collect that extra money to cover that bad debt. And it also raises the use rate across. So it depends on who do you want to put the onus of paying the bill on? Do we make everybody suffer for these people not paying their bills? Or do we make sure that the landowner that's running it as a business, make sure that the bills are paid?
But we talk, this is it's all included in the water bill, right?
Yes, all that stuff there is based on option 1.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, real quick,
Yes, sir.
your water bill is no longer going to be your water bill. It's going to be your utility. The water, wastewater, everything in that bill, it's that landowners, so here's the thing, you can tell the landowners or the homeowners that own the property, that are renting and leasing, whatever, they can increase their cost of leasing to the renter, the tenant, but you still have the problem that you're talking about, where if that person's not paying it, then it can get shut off. But the only way to secure or hold someone accountable is to the property owner, because you're not, and we talked about this, whether it's a college town or somewhere else. Someone doesn't pay their bill for 2-3 months and they decide they're going to head to Texas or Oklahoma or wherever. They just walk away from these deals. And even if we do a credit,
Check.
you still have a lot of people that don't do the right thing that they should.
That was the problem that we had in Spearfish, is we had Black Hill State University there, and everybody would pay their bills fine until February. And then they would just quit paying their bill because they knew before we took any action, they were out of school and gone.
So is there a way to actually allow a landowner to like sign a release or access to a tenant as far as, and I'm speaking from experience because my water bill is in Carrie's name and I can't actually access it, but I pay it. So is there any way to actually sign a waiver for a landlord to actually sign a waiver to allow a certain tenant to, that's just.
Yes, all we have to do is put their name on the account too.
Okay.
We can put that
That's maybe something
they
that,
have access.
right, and that's, because that's a flip side that actually might resolve where the landowner, I completely agree, for us to be able to collect and hold someone accountable, but allow access at the same time.
And then maybe the tenant can just pay the water bill.
Yeah.
But it still remains in the landowner's name.
We'll have this discussion Monday.
We will.
Source is going to get beat.
Mr. Chairperson?
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Chairperson and city councilors, how are you going to notify the landowner? I have a couple of friends who are renting a house from people that are in the military and are deployed overseas. And they asked me, when I told them about this, they said, how is the landowner going to be notified? You're going to send a letter to each landowner and hope it gets to Kandahar or Afghanistan or whatever?
We will send it to the address that is on the county tax rolls. And the other thing is we're going to go out and Abraham and I are going to spend like 3 months out talking to lots of people. We're going to try and hit every social event and club and everything and get this word out.
Okay.
Well,
But we have to wait and see what we're going to market. So,
You'll be doing it after Monday.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
and Mr. Chairman, and I would hope that anybody who is overseas or wherever has somebody that is managing those properties for them. And so, I mean, I would hope if they're gone for a 9-month tour or whatever, they have to have somebody that they have given that responsibility to if there's something that goes on there, somebody has to be responsible for trying to fix something or take care of something. So there should be some property management there from whoever that out of the country person is, whether it's military or for whatever other reason.
And there will always be exceptions that we'll have to work through. And do that all the time.
Chair, yes. Robert, what is our current bad debt right now?
1.4 million?
Thank you. That's all I know.
And that's only for a year and a half. Because we wrote off all that stuff back in January coming out of COVID.
So we could inherit real estate instead of bad debt.
You know, we have been leaning properties.
Gotcha.
And we've done quite a few, and it's amazing how quickly we can get those paid. Or get payment arrangements made up.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it does. It takes a lot of work. It goes from billing to my department. We do our stuff, send it over to Todd in property management. He's the one that actually gets the liens ready and files them, goes to the attorney's office. It's a pain. But there was one of them that we collected $42,000 on because we caught it just before he sold the property.
So Robert, it's going to save a lot of admin costs as well, right?
I'm not going to promise anything.
Okay.
After what we went through with the water meters, no promise.
Okay. Gotcha.
But we need a place to start and then we can figure it out from there.
Thank you.
Still got some more?
Yes.
Are you done?
So we'll go through these real quick. Single family, base rate goes from from 1144 to 2650. So we are looking at a significant increase there. Next slide. So on my water bill, there's my winter average. So my current bill was $28.65. My new bill would be $53.35. So you're doubling it.
Wow.
It's a 86.21% increase.
Oh, snapper.
So next slide. We've set up the small commercial. This one, it's not set up exactly the same as the water, but it is underneath the same idea that they don't use as much as the large commercial. Next slide. Then we've got the large commercial. Next slide. Again, we have the same concerns that we've talked about before. Next slide. Same assumptions were used. And we have the same issues again with Tyler and everything, getting the information that we need out of it. Next. We're setting it up the same way. We're reinvesting in our infrastructure, rebuilding our reserves. We've set up the same restricted accounts. Next. And we're presenting this tonight. It'll go to legal committee and finance committee. And we have the workshop on Monday. And by then, hopefully we have everything ironed out to get it to council on February 8th. For a first reading and setting for a public hearing. Any questions on that one?
Mr. Chair, just a quick one. On that workshop on Monday, is that going to be recorded?
I'm sure we can make sure it happens. Amalia can work her magic.
Oh, she is magic. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I looked online and I couldn't find where the workshop is online, so everybody knows. I mean, I looked under notices to the public and I didn't find it there. Is it there? No, it's not. It will be what? I know where it's gonna be and I know what time it's gonna be, but there are other people, when I'm talking to them about this, they have no idea of where it is. And I say, well, look under notices to the public.
This is the first time.
Hasn't been posted yet, which is why it's not there.
But it will be.
Yeah. Gotta have 72 hours.
Have him, yes. We'll get to work.
Anything else?
The next one. This is going to be really fast. Chapter 26, water and wastewater utilities. Next slide. Next slide. So we went through and when we initially looked at this, we were going to go through and rewrite certain sections. Mr. Patterson was here at the time, and it was decided it was just easier to do a repeal and replace. So that's what we chose. Article 1 is the general provisions. Next slide. Article 2 talks about the water service, all the different things that we need to have. Next slide. Article 3 talks about wastewater. This, for the most part, stayed the same. There's some stuff that we're going to have to change in the future, but we do have to do a couple of studies before we can make those changes. Next slide. Article 4 talks about establishing and changing and disconnecting the services, how that all works. Next slide. Article 5, this is where the nuts and bolts is. It's billing, deposits, payments, rates, and enterprise funds. This is where it's all set up on how things work and where the money goes and the restricted accounts and all that kind of stuff. This has actually been through infrastructure a couple of times and then up through finance committee. They beat it up several times. Next slide. We also talk in Division 2 about involuntary termination, how that works. There's an appeal process. They can set up a payment plan and how the termination of service actually works and the restoration of service. Next slide. Division 3 talks about how the rate setting happens, schedules for utility rates, out of city services, the enterprise funds, revenue, and the restricted accounts. Next slide. Next one. The last two sections of chapter 26 are water restrictions and water conservation. Those are not done yet. We're waiting for our task force to get done with their work so we can set up the water restrictions and water conservation. Any questions on that?
Any questions, committee members?
We will go through this in a little more detail on Monday. Now you get to listen to track.
Attending council, any questions? Okay. Anybody have any questions? Anybody in attendance? Anybody attending online? Does anybody have any questions? I guess not. So we'll go to the next item, which will be 17.
Yes, sir. Committee chair, committee members, thank you. This is another sort of like Robert just say, chapter 21 solid waste. It's completely informational. This is discussion. This is an opportunity for the committee chair, committee members to go through, point anything out that you want us to revisit, you want us to explain, you want us to expedite on. There's multiple articles here. This ordinance has never had a full revision in about 32 to 35 years that we could look at. It's just been added on, and some of the terminology does not fit what we do now. And a lot of it's been updated. If you notice in your packets, you got a clean version. And you also got a full red line. You notice the red line is very extensive. We've been from 8 pages all the way up to 52 pages. We try to encompass as much as we could based on the information that we got from our staff, from other departments, from day-to-day operations. In Article 1, this is kind of the general definitions kind of we went through. Purpose definitions, authority of the solid waste director, the city's exclusive right to collect solid waste. 115 is just reserved for future purposes. Next slide. Solid waste containment, inspections of the containers, responsibility of solid waste, accumulation of solid waste on property, unobstructed passage in the streets and alleys, solid waste containers, condemning of containers and removal, frequency of collection, responsibility of streets, alleys, and sidewalks. This is some issues that have not been taken care of in the last 30 plus years. We're cleaning all that up. Kind of give our code enforcement a little bit more grip when they go out there and try to enforce these. This was reviewed by the legal department in May, I believe, of last year. Next slide. Again, the city's duties to provide disposal, our hours of operations, our holiday schedules, all built into here. If you kind of go through there, you see our residential collection, residential bulk trash. On that bulk trash, we really specify the breakdown. For example, you're going to break down your boxes. You're going to have them within a specific amount of, 3-4 feet by 2 feet. That's all 300 pounds or less. So we could placement of your leaves and debris that'll fly out. Yard debris in bags or in boxes has to be nestled together. Where you're going to put the placement on the streets, commercial business uses, containers, ownership, placement, responsibilities. We have a lot of commercial businesses that they do not take care of their enclosures. They just kind of leave them out there, and the language is very generalized, very ambiguous. So we really tighten a lot of that stuff up. Commercial business collection, our franchise fees are in there. Failure to place the proper containers for the use city authorized collection services. A lot of language went into this. Generally, abandoning of dangerous containers. Sometimes we have abandoned properties or properties that are vacant where people use them as dump sites. We put provisions in there as well so we can start cleaning that up and then holding the property owner accountable. Next slide. Enforcement independent of other officials. That just kind of says, I don't make the decision on my own. It's a collective decision. It's a city decision. Issuing the citations, notices of violation. That's something we can use for that education versus citation. where the property owner is not securing the property, it's being used as a legal dump site, hey, we're gonna have that conversation first before we move in and start abating those properties if it's deemed a hazard. Threats and intimidation. Unfortunately, a lot of our staff that work the alleys, that clean these alleys, they get a lot of threats and intimidation by just the general public. Violation penalties are in there as well. Abatement and appeal. So we built in an appeal process. So if you do have a property that has illegal dumping, you can bring it to solid waste director. We can review the issue, make an appeal, then we can make the solid waste director in conjunction with other city officials can make a decision of how we're going to pursue that. Conflicts of ordinance liability, another reserved section. Next slide. Disposal waste facility. There's a lot of stuff that comes in the landfill that we need to really tighten up as well. So disposal of solid waste, the lead acid batteries, lithium batteries. The lithium batteries is what causes a lot of fires at the landfill. And they go from small little tablet watch lithium batteries to big computer batteries. They're causing a significant amount of fires out there. The landfill use requirements of the landfill. What can you bring to the landfill? What can you not bring to the landfill? And we also put together, when you bring something to the landfill, make sure your load is tarped, it's covered, instead of spreading it all the way down Sunset, all the way down Eisenhower, Relief Route, or Garden, or Brasher. You need to have it covered, so we have some language in there to kind of give us a little bit more flexibility with the tenants, hey, with the residents or our users, hey, start tarping your loads, don't let it fly all over the city. Unlawful disposal. We put a penalty in there that kind of mirrored what the state is proposing. The state has $1,000 fine. We can only go up to 500 on our end. Next slide. The solid waste fees and expenses. Again, there's a bunch of variances in there. The level of the solid waste fees for containers, credits and debits, the solid waste department. The department does not have the ability to give credits or debits to any kind of fee. So that's something we wanted to clarify, put it in black and white so we can look at it. Our landfill permit fees, charge accounts. Some of our charge accounts, we have people that carry debt over and over and over. Sometimes we carry up to about $40,000 worth of debt of people that just don't want to pay their accounts. This gives me a little bit more leverage to suspend the account, put them on a cash basis, and collect on those. Roll-off rentals and fees, recovery expenses. Recovery expenses kind of points towards if we have a vacant lot or a property that we have to abate immediately because of an imminent hazard. We're going to track all those costs, and we're going to come back to the property owner and say, hey, this is what it costs the city to abate the issue. This is what it's going to cost you, so we can recover those funds as well. Again, restricted fund accounts within the enterprise fund, 2176 expenditure restricted funds for any purpose already specifically listed. Exactly what Robert has built into his. We utilize his model. We fit it into ours. And again, inside this ordinance is also the rate increase as well. And that's something that we can get into on Monday. We can really dive into in depth. Next slide. Illegal dumping, believe it or not, we've never had this in the ordinance ever. It's only a state law and it's never been really written out in city municipal code at all. So we put a penalty in there. We put some guidance in there. We defined what the illegal dumping is. So hopefully we can curb that along with the help of the community, work together and curb that. I will say illegal dumping, our grapple service 2 years ago incurs a $1.2 million cost just to run around and pick all this stuff up. Next slide. At this point, committee chair, councilors, we send for any questions that you might have. I know it's a lot of reading, but we are open to any kind of suggestions, comments that you may have that we can incorporate, we can review, we can implement, we can stuff that we can take out, we can expand. We are at your disposal, and I stand for any questions.
Committee members, do you have any questions? Anybody in attendance have any questions?
Ms. Rita.
Other than Rita?
I'll wait because I have quite a few.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Chairperson, city councilors, how are you going to enforce all of these new changes And who is in charge of enforcing these changes? Code enforcement? So who notifies code enforcement? The landfill notifies code enforcement.
Good.
Okay, and are you going to hire a dedicated person to enforce, or are you just going to throw it all on code enforcement and say, here, have at it?
I think that question should be directed to our city manager and assistant city managers.
I'm just wondering if you're going to have a process.
I think that's a fair question, and we are in discussions about whether to bring on another code enforcement person that would be dedicated strictly to this, but we have not hired a position, we have not opened a position specific to this.
Okay, so this person could possibly go out and make sure that Juan is bagging his leaves. I'm just asking because this is in there, the bagging of leaves, the tying up, what you can put into the container, who is throwing grease in their container. I mean, I've read all of this. And it's a lot. And I just want to make sure you put this in writing, but who is going to check on this? I think I have, or otherwise it's just words on paper if there's no action going to be taken. And I think if you're going to charge people extra, you need to enforce it and make sure the ones that are not complying. And what about illegal dumping? I mean, I have my friends call me, they say, we've called the landfill, we've talked to people about picking up the trash in the alleyways. Nobody sees them, except my friend went out at 2:30 in the morning because she called me and she said, I saw somebody in a pickup truck dumping their branches and whatever. And first question was, did you get a plate number on the vehicle? Well, no, it's dark at 2:30 in the morning. And I said, well, without that, nobody can go out. So again, your enforcement, are they going to be 24/7 or just when somebody calls and says, guess what, my alley is full of trash? And then they tell me, we called on the phone and we couldn't get anybody. It rang and rang and rang.
So Rita, I think those are legitimate. You're not always going to have somebody standing right there that can identify the person. One of the things that we've seen with our new Rubicon system is the ability to monitor, track, document some of these issues. I think what's really key and what's really important, and certainly working with our local media, is to put the word out and educate the public. I'll tell you that Mr. Chavarro has been on the radio and has discussed some of these things. We're going to continue to do that. I think the biggest part is education of the public. Just like you, just like me, I don't want to see the refrigerators, and mattresses, and couches, and all of those things in my alley next to my camp. Neither do you, neither does anyone else. I think some of that could be peer pressure. I think the main thing is we understand what that grappler service is for, and it's not for couches and refrigerators. We need to educate the public as we go, and Mr. Chavarro is really nice.
And another question is about the water bill. If the water bill is going to go to the landowner, how does the person are there going to be, you bring in your water bill and you get one free pickup load of dumping. How do they get that? Is that going to be now again on the landowner that's going to have to provide a receipt or something, or is there still going to be Robert pays his water bill, right?
Most of the time.
Okay, good. Robert pays his water bill. Now, Robert doesn't own his property. Juan owns the property. Ron doesn't give him anything. Is he still going to be able to tap in on the computer to show that his water bill is paid, or some of these big housing apartment complexes? I've been in touch with two of them, and they're going to be at the meeting because they want to know, are they going to have extra work in order to provide a receipt? If it's not a check, are they going to have to provide a receipt to the person who's using the water or the trash so they can get a free pick up load, or are they, or is their water going to be shut off? Those are some of the questions, so you can think about it. But, the city residents get a free pickup load at the scale house. How are they going to show that they paid their bill? I'm just asking, because they're asking me, because they don't go on Facebook, they don't read the newspaper, and they don't know what to do. I mean, they're sitting there going, my water bill's going to go up 86%. I'm barely making it now. I said, well, come to the meeting. And they go, Ms. Rita, we work at 9:00 on Monday. I said, all right, well, whoever asks is going to be televised. That's a great question, because then they can go back. I'm going to take notes so I can tell the people, when they call me and they ask me, and why don't they call certain people? They told me the landfill doesn't answer their phone. Well, I was out there on Friday, the phone rang and it was answered. But somebody had called me and said 6 times he had called to get the limbs removed from the vehicle. And not only illegal dumping, but what about the large semis that park in front of the dumpsters? And the landowner, or it's Allsup's, and Allsup says, hey, we don't go out there every second and make sure that they're not parking. I jumped up on the cab, knocked on the door and said, the trash truck driver will be here at 7:30. You need to move. And yeah, he moved. I was very forceful. But the thing is, how is it the property owner or the person who owns the trash can or pays for 5 days or 3 days a week if somebody else and they don't know it? I'm just asking these questions because these are what people are asking me.
And Rita, I think those are good things for us to consider and take back and find you some answers. My understanding of it as of right now on the tipping fees is that it's the account holder.
It's the account holder. So is the account holder going to be a renter? Or is it going to be the property manager for Wilshire Gardens?
I think that depends on what is passed.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
Committee Chair. So what Ms. Rita brought up is a really good questions. If I can get those questions in writing in an email and I can go through in detail every single one of them and answer them for the sake of time, I could definitely share that with the committee, all the questions that we have and all the answers we have. Those are really good questions. As far as the tipping fee of the landfill, we go case by case. If you're renting at 205 East Poe, your driver license should say 205 East Poe, regardless of whoever the landowner is. So look at matching the water bill with the actual ID of the individual if they actually live there. And sometimes they'll get a written permission from the landowner, property owner saying, hey, they can utilize my water bill when they do have a water bill. We also have situations where there's a digital water bill as well. So they'll actually show us our phone, hey, look, this is my water bill, this is where I'm at. Here's my ID, we match it. And those loads that come in with water bills, they're small, they're relatively insignificant. They're about 200 pounds or less. And sometimes they're just cleaning out a closet or cleaning out some little stuff. Nothing major like that. So we like to address those. But as I said, and as far as code enforcement, right now I have 3 solid waste supervisors, and the ordinance is built in myself as well, where we can enforce those codes as we see them throughout the city. As you know, now with Rubicon system, as Chad noticed, we have eyes and ears in the entire city twice a week. We cover 330 miles pretty much every day except for Wednesdays. So the Rubicon system, we're reporting 300 to 500 incidents, which is a photo. They see illegal dumping, some code violations. We see them, we report them, we literally get those. We'll send them directly to the streets. We'll send them to code enforcement. We'll send them to the building official. We send them to PD. We send them to fire. So we have a lot of resources at our fingertips now that we never had before. We can definitely utilize that. Okay.
Anything else?
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson and councilors. You say that people take pictures and people show this and then the supervisors can deal with it. You have 3 supervisors. Mark is in the office, but you got Philip and Jason who are running routes because of the fact that you don't have enough employees to handle the situation. I understand that. I try and tell people this. They don't understand, but if they want to talk to somebody, who do they talk to? Two of the supervisors, Jason and Philip, are out running routes. Who do they talk to? Do they talk to Mark? He'd never be able to eat lunch or go to the bathroom or anything with all these people calling him.
So committee chair, committee members, with Rubicon system, we do have the ability to monitor and track a lot of that data. So we go back, my two supervisors, they do run routes, but they also, now we just onboarded 200 staff members. They do not run routes 100%. They're running routes maybe 20, 30% of the time. I pick up those complaints, my staff picks up the complaints. I share the complaints, like I said, my counterparts at law enforcement. So we're all working together as a group.
And a lot of times, we counselors get those calls as well.
I know, I give them your number. I mean, I ask them where they live, they don't know who their counselor is, so I ask them their address, I give it to them. I don't have any dog in this fight. I live in the county, so I don't have a water issue, nor do I have a trash issue. But some of these people, they don't want to cause a problem. They don't know what to do. They don't even know who to call. But I give them your number one.
Well, and that's fine because, the way I handle it is I generally go to city manager, assistant city manager and say, this is a call that I got, this is a concern, can you deal with it? How can you help and so forth and so on. And then I'm sure they go down to Abraham and they get together with Abraham and that's how the process works, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that's what I tell them. I say, why are you calling me? Well, because we know you can ask these questions. Maybe they're not comfortable talking to Chad. Why, I don't know. Or maybe to Ed, they're not comfortable talking. So they call me. And I call them. I call Christina. I call Juliana.
Yep. So, I mean,
I'm sorry, that's correct.
Don't leave me out.
I called you, Bobby. I really have. I called almost every city councilor and chatted with them. And that's why, Daryl, I asked for your personal cell phone number. So I can call and tell people, here, call your city councilor.
They call you because you're a Cubbies fan.
I know that. I will bring up these issues. I'm just saying that the general public, how many people here are from the public? 3 of us? How many people are online? That are four people are online. That should tell you they won't say anything until boom, they get hit with double their water bill, or they won't be able to take their trash.
Rita,
Yeah.
I am also a private citizen as well as a council. I look at these both ways and place a lot of emphasis as if not on the council. How does it affect me as a citizen of the community? I don't worry about whether it's Ward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I worry about it as a city, I'm a city and county. And as an individual, I'm concerned with what I feel and what my neighbors feel and how to represent, make this both work.
I know that because I've called you once or twice with other people's concerns. And, it just doesn't have to be the ward that they're in. I'll call you whenever.
But, I think that's how these council members approach it. We're private citizens, 1, and we're council members, 2. And I think that's how we look at all of these issues. And it's beneficial to the whole. So, this is the first shot at the solid waste. And it will get reviewed. And the right things will be done at the end of the day. I'm convinced of that.
I'll take you at your word. I think I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, then let's go to the next item. Item number E8, Portland blue bathrooms. Who's going to take that?
Not me, I'm just excited.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, the engineering department was tasked with producing some preliminary layouts and an estimate. New installation at Rice Park. There's a copy of those plans, estimate in your packet, and we also produced a larger scale for anybody who'd like a larger scale. But just for information, the total cost, and again, this is a preliminary estimate, total costs for that particular installation, $213,219.34.
For location,
That's and that's specific to this location. That may change some depending on other locations. Utilities and other things may affect that.
Are these permanent bathrooms or they're?
Correct. This Portland Loo is a permanent type installation.
Okay. That's what.
So actually, this was an idea from Main Street Roswell. Juliana and Molly had been talking about it. And considering that I was asking why we don't have bathrooms in our main tourist area, a lot of the return information I got was because they're not safe. You can't have a brick and mortar because things happen in there that we can't protect people. So then when Juliana started mentioning the Portland Loo, and you look at it, it's open, it can be utilized and ran by, what is that? Sun? Not sunlight. Solar. There, it was a nice one. Anyway, just looking at these, we have some opportunities coming up with RAW and those type of things of getting our epicenter of Main Street Roswell moving a lot more. So either way, this is a win-win. And I also think that there's an opportunity to have them locked up, but keep them available on the wayfinding project that's coming out as well. These can be noted on there, but we don't have bathrooms down there. We have businesses who have to actually monitor and lock off their, and they have people going outside on their businesses. So you actually cannot call them out or enforce any code enforcement laws against someone using a restroom according to the ACLU until you've provided them a restroom. So that's why looking at this is a solution to a lot of different, areas. And that's why I get so excited about it. And I do realize it has a hefty price tag, but.
So, but my question would be, is this going to require the city to hire additional people to take care of it, maintain it?
So because I asked all these questions prior to recently taking it to engineering, because in the community group meeting that I hold once a month, this has been on the list for a very long time. So Jim actually already services this area and cleans up in the morning, his team does. And I asked if it was something that could, they could actually come by and spray it down and make sure it's maintained. Now, the city would have to actually utilize our either code enforcement or a police force to come and monitor or lock it down at a certain time. And to make sure that, because let's be real, there are homeless who are catching things on fire and these do run the risk of that. But if we're actually monitoring it, and then that's not always the case. Also, there has been discussions with public safety of looking into a watch center where certain areas are monitored. And that's why, it's kind of like, yes, there's a risk, but there's also a risk in not having a bathroom. So we either need to move forward, and especially if we're going to grow with the Reno Air Races, and this is just a look forward. But that's why I get really excited on it.
Any comments or questions from committee members? Other council members?
Yeah, I would like to ask the question, this is, you're right, this is pricey. And, you contrast it with brick and mortar, how that is like not feasible. But also, you said this is your engineer's estimate, correct? This at this price, this would be this would have to go out to bid, number one. And who's to say it would even be this product right here? And I don't know. I just see it as a good thing, but I know that it's got a lot of luggage with it. And, it's just got a lot of things that need to be worked out, but it would definitely have to go out to bid to follow the procurement services
Yes, sir.
and keep
Let
it,
me get,
legitimate and purchased correctly. And, wow, that's the price of a home almost, That's crazy. So that's your engineer's estimate. Thank you, Chair.
Counselor Court, you had your,
No, get your committee first, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I guess one of my questions I have is, how does this compare to what other communities our size are doing? I mean, I've watched this stuff in a lot of different places, and including when I ran Cahoon Park Pool, we had bathrooms that were open to the public that were on the side of the building. And unfortunately, I got called at home one night because you had 4 boys that got a 13-year-old into one of those bathrooms and raped her.
Brick and mortar.
Okay, and then after the fact, the police are calling me at 7 o'clock to come in and get evidence and things like that. But if you go to Albuquerque, the ball fields there off of Eubank.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they have just completely redone that facility up there, which is really nice. But before that, I mean, you had needles and all kinds of things that came from homeless and people with drug use problems, things like that, that were in a public area. How do we take liability off of the city of Roswell for providing one of these in that type of a situation? And of course, the cost of it is extreme. I mean, these are all what ifs, and we need to provide those types of things. But what are other communities doing right now to provide this type of? I don't think they would burn one of these down as easily as they do the porta potties, but it's still an attraction for folks that are homeless, and we do have that issue here in Roswell right now.
Counselor.
I believe Councilman Corn was before me.
I was waiting for the committee to get done first.
Okay, so interestingly enough, when this made it onto the community group's agenda, that was a year ago, and they were 120,000 then. Okay, so I continuously talked about it, and really all I requested was numbers. I didn't request presentation because I'm sitting here talking about it for 9 months and I have no idea what it cost. A lot of the same questions you have, we hadn't done a study. So my actual concept was not necessarily to print it. It was, I just wanted to say, okay, can someone tell me what this actually costs? Because I'm pushing an issue that I have no idea. And you have all these questions. I'm just actually excited to see here. So, and as a, discussion, a non-action item, because this to me starts a conversation. We have a problem. Our downtown area needs restrooms. So we have tourists and, it's, so we at least need to be talking about it. That's the whole point of this. It's not, there isn't an easy answer, but moving forward, this is the first step.
Well, and I would agree with you that I don't want to spend $50,000 on the study, but if we can get someone to look at what other communities are doing that are working for that community, then we should be have options for this type of that facility.
I could throw this out there. Because Artesia, when they have those tournaments, softball tournaments, that's the one that I go to. They generally have like a portable. It's laid on like a trailer. And they're pretty mobile to where you can take them wherever.
Like what we have out at the fairgrounds.
I don't know about the fair. I didn't see the one at fairgrounds, but this one.
It's movable, I guess is what I'm saying. It's not a porta potty, but it's
not a porta potty. It's like a regular.
Exactly.
But it's on a trailer.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about out there.
So you have that as well that you can move it within downtown, depending on where the crowd is.
Generally, when we have events, we do have those.
Huh?
We generally have porta potties out when we have events. This is just for keeping, because we have UFO people coming here every day. And if we actually start looking at the statistics of the action of the activity in that area, I think you'd be really amazed. It's not just for events. It's actually for people who want to come on a Wednesday, have 4 children, and their children need to go to the bathroom, but there's no business that's going to allow them to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, but you can still use a movable, and they don't look trashy.
No.
They look like a regular bathroom.
Okay. My concern is during the last homeless meeting, there was a concern about not having restrooms and the business owners were asking for bathrooms. Okay, so we actually worked, when I say we, I mean Geneva Martinez and several other people worked diligently to actually work with the city to get 2 porta potties that were donated out there, and they were movable. One of them was in the Reichman Park, and it's actually a good location. However, it was damaged, and they are easily damaged. And so if you don't invest anything and something is free, you don't have a city monitoring it, nor did they care. So this, to me, being permanent and expensive, is actually something we'll take care of.
Well, it takes some more conversation, I'm sure. Councilor Carter?
Mr. Chairman, I have been a witness to a few restroom facilities around town that the homeless have taken over. By the way, that rape case you were discussing, Counselor, was one of my cases when I was a judge. I can tell you all about that.
I don't need to hear anything more than I already know.
And I don't see how this is any different than a brick and mortar from that standpoint. I mean, you got kids running around and they don't care if it's night or day, so locking it up, probably not going to do anything for you. The other thing that I caution is you can't just go buy this in the morning and clean it up and be done. You got to go by there on a regular basis. Got to make sure that there's toilet paper, hand wipes, hose it down, because I'll just tell you, people are sloppy. And so I would think at a minimum, somebody's got to go by there at least every 2 hours.
1 hour.
There you go.
But because we maintain a rest area facility north of town and it's 1 hour at minimum, that's.
You know, and that's a brand new one and it's a nice one too.
Yeah.
The facility going out to.
So,
And we actually have a guy almost 24/7 there watching it because of people they live to vandalize stuff and it's sad.
and
They don't care. It's.
you said you wanted to monitor it some way. What's that going to cost?
No, I'm not, that's why this discussion item, but here's what I would ask out of your search. This is Ward 1, this is our Main Street area, and it is a huge, like I said, epicenter for business, and it actually has the potential for more. So I respect all of your viewpoints, and I actually welcome them, but I would also ask that when you actually bring those, also come up with an alternative solution for the fact that people need to go to the bathroom. So if you don't have, to shoot this down is one thing, but to tell me a solution to the same problem that's happening in Ward 1 in our epicenter is actually truly just as beneficial as the shoot down. Okay. If you don't see this as a benefit, that's great. I get it, but give me something else.
Well, let me assure you that it's just not all in Ward 1. Every one of us has got a business district.
Sure.
They're all fighting the problem. No matter where you are. If they got a business or a collection of businesses, homeless sleep next to the building at night.
This isn't about the homeless though. This is about our business owners needing somewhere for tourists to go to the bathroom. But it's not just homeless.
You mentioned monitoring it.
Yeah.
So I guess you're going to park a camera somewhere You can't park it inside the unit because that's voyeurism. And,
That's the Watch Center study,
well,
public safety.
I just want to know what the cost is going to be.
Absolutely.
For that. Somebody
Well-
can monitor it.
Lodger's tax is what I actually initially proposed this as, because you can ask city manager who's been there the whole time that we've been discussing this. This was a concept that's paid for by lodger's tax, because in my mind, this is what lodger's tax should be paying for.
I believe,
So that's actually, the presentation was for lodger's tax.
I believe, now, somebody smarter than me, Mr. Chad, lodger's tax has a sunset on it. Is my understanding when bonds get paid off for the convention center. And we're gonna have to absorb the operational costs that's presently being paid by lodger's tax into the general fund. About 2027, if I calculate it right, I'm getting, so lodger's tax disappears 4 years.
So are you saying we don't receive lodger's tax anymore after 4 years?
That's, I'll have to, I just.
We collected lodger's tax every year.
I just started my research, but there's some things that change here pretty quick.
So here's what I would ask because the time, this isn't information as me as a counselor, this is information from constituents and actual. So the reason I actually find it imperative to have this conversation is because I'm not naive. It takes 4 years for something like this to even get put out. So the more we're having the conversations, the more we're moving. But if we never start talking, we never get anywhere.
So my suggestion is that by the time you get this rolled out 24 years, that will just about be the end of the lodger's tax as we know it today. There's going to be some changes that's going to be done with that. And I don't know, I haven't pulled out the ordinances and started my review, but it's not a forever deal.
Let me ask Councilor Johnson.
Yeah, so, I've been thinking about this for many years as well. And I know it has posed a problem to downtown Roswell. But I've always thought of it and with a concept of and contrast it to the rest area situation, what it takes to, just puts a little facility like that. I mean, our rest area out there is massive compared to what your thought is. But put it on a scale, maybe that's scale 10, maybe a scale to 1. But, with more of put a business plan together where it's opened up and, maybe not, metal's fine, but it's opened up to the public during certain hours, cleaned certain hours. I mean, to have a good public facility like that and to be serious about it, you got to be serious about it. Or it's going to be so bad. It's going to be the talk of the town where nobody wants to go. And it's got to be, just done at a very professional level.
County is taking care of the Great Grant project. I could never, the Great Blocks or. Great Blocks. Okay. So in that area there is consideration for the restroom. However, they plan to lock that area at a certain time, but there is talk of that. I just didn't want to bank on the county actually, and so maybe we might have the opportunity to actually create exactly what you're talking about at this. But the thing is it's way off Main Street. It's behind the courthouse in a parking lot.
Oh.
So that's why I'm saying, I've just been looking and I've wanted to bring this out for numbers. And I'm really grateful because I need more input from other people,
Can we have this one, bring it back for additional discussion? Until we can kind of come to a consensus.
This could go all night because this is
Yeah, no, I'm not getting hungry.
Well, and back to the point, I think that we need to figure out what other communities are doing.
Yep.
And come back for more discussion on what other communities are doing. And
best practice.
That's right, yeah, best practices.
I completely agree and thank you.
Anything else? We'll move on to the next one. Committee time. Committee members, do you have any preference? I'm retired, I can be anytime.
Same point. Daryl, what's your
4:30 is fine with me. You know,
First,
I mean, that's the
that's-
time I get off work, so
Right,
I got 33 months to work. So,
right. You're making it to the finance meeting at 2.
yeah,
That's Monday of the month.
I can, yeah, I mean, I can roll with whatever.
I work as well, but 4:30, I can flex my schedule, but I don't mind either, any of them.
I have no problem with last Monday of the month at 4:30. So if we can just keep it at that.
I'm retired also. I just, staffing and everything else, 4:30, now you're taking everybody into
And to.
overtime and stuff. So
Yeah.
whether it's 4:30 or 2:00, I'm retired also.
If committee members prefer 2:00, I'm fine with that too.
I don't see anything.
I'm okay with 2, yeah.
2:00,
Yeah.
Counselor Arnold, with 2:00.
2:00?
Yeah.
Yeah, then we could be done by dinner, so that.
You don't say you were hungry.
I'm hungry.
So if there's no objections, we can set it up for last Monday at 2:00.
Save some money.
At least for staff anyway. I don't know, but saving money, but saving time.
Time is money.
Any other discussions on committee time? So now we'll go into regular items. Safe Streets for All Resolution, Vision Zero Policy. Who's going to take that?
Sir. Mr. Chairman, committee members, what we have before you tonight is consider resolution 24XX for support of establishment of a Vision Zero policy goals and reporting process for the city of Roswell in support of the Safe Streets for All comprehensive safety plan process funding. So I know we've talked about this before, but the city of Roswell received a grant from the Federal Highways for a Safe Streets for All action plan. One of the required items that they want to see is a Vision Zero policy and resolution to be able to move from planning into implementation funding. It's one of those things they want to see before they'll release implementation funds to us or allow us to apply for implementation funds. So just some background on Vision Zero. That's a Federal Highways initiative, which overarching goal of reducing and eliminating fatalities and serious injuries on our roads. That's kind of the overall goal of that Vision Zero policy from Federal Highways.
Okay.
So I'll just hit a few highlights, just in the interest of time. So on the resolution, the city of Roswell adopts the goal of zero traffic deaths and serious injuries, stating that no loss of life or serious injury is acceptable on our streets. As an overarching goal, something that we want to pursue and aim towards. With the understanding that, you can't control people's behavior. You're always going to have those people that'll insist on speeding, insist on driving intoxicated. So we don't attach a timeline. We don't attach anything to that. The next goal, the city of Roswell adopts the goal of eliminating traffic deaths by 2035 and reducing serious injuries by 50% by 2035, and endorses Vision Zero as a comprehensive and holistic approach to achieving this goal. And our language there was based on similar language that other communities have used. And again, this is just a resolution. There's not penalties to us if we don't achieve those goals. This is just stating a city goal, a target that we want to aim for. And then the policy attached to that, there's some definitions. And then again, just kind of hitting some highlights. Within 12 months of the effective date of this policy, we'll develop and finalize a safety action plan, which again is already in progress. We're hoping to have that done by June or July, and present the safety action plan to the mayor and city council, which again is going to be our process of getting our plan approved in the summer timeframe. We've already stood up a steering committee for our Safe Streets for All effort. So we already have that steering committee going. The steering committee also reviewed this document at their first meeting. Also part of this policy, begin collection and analysis of traffic safety data so that such data can be used to develop the safety action plan. Again, that's already in process. And there's also in here steps on reporting out implementation of the safety action plan and progress towards our Vision Zero goals. And what we'd like to do is maintain a comprehensive public webpage to share that information out on our website. So for example, we would list data, the adopted resolution, action plan, any updates, progress on the strategies in the safety action plan, as well as a method to solicit feedback on safety concerns, projects, and strategies. There's language about what the action plan has to contain. And again, that's just straight out of what Federal Highways wants to see from our safety action plan. We're also requirements for reporting and community meetings. Within 6 months of the effective date of this policy, we shall submit to the city council and mayor and make publicly available a written report on the progress made toward finalizing the safety action plan. And again, that's already in progress. Our 6-month update in all likelihood will be that we're finished with it. Within 6 months of finalizing the plan and annually thereafter, we shall submit to the city council and mayor and make publicly available written implementation reports. My vision for that would be that we'd come to this committee and present those reports at this committee, where we're at on implementation, where we're at on our goals, an overview of our progress towards full implementation of the action plan, status of all the strategies set forth in the action plan, status of funding necessary for implementation of the action plan, and description of any unanticipated obstacles to implementation of the plan. That's just a real quick highlight. The full text is included in your packet. And we stand for questions.
Committee members, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, is there any costs come with this other than people's time to be on committees and taking all the data and stuff?
No, sir. And like I said, the city received a grant for development of the plan. So that part's already funded, listed as an approved budget item. So the cost for that's already been covered. And I don't foresee any additional cost aside from staff time, reporting, making website updates.
I'd say that this pretty much looks like a no-brainer, so.
Yeah. Any other comments? Comments from anybody attending the meeting or online? Do we have somebody?
No. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to put this on our consent agenda for our next city council meeting.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve this item on consent agenda. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried unanimously. The next item is item F11, amendment of 3 CWSRF 092 wastewater dewatering loan agreement. We'll take that one.
Okay. Committee chair, committee members, as I mentioned before, when we talked about project updates, we're running into material delivery delays on our wastewater treatment plant dewatering project. There's 4 pieces of equipment that are delayed, major pieces of equipment. We're looking at not being able to receive those pieces of equipment until the May or June timeframe. Unfortunately, that timeframe puts us outside the time on the original loan agreement, NMED, on that project funding. So we approached NMED and they agreed to grant us an extension on the project time. So what you have before you is to accept and approve that we can enter into that amendment to extend the time on the funding.
Any questions, comments, committee members?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just go with what's the impact cost, things like that, just to make sure this and there's not any additional cost to us.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Chair, this is also an extension of the loan grant as well?
There is a small grant piece of it. Most of the funding is a loan. There's a small grant piece and it's all tied to the same agreement document. Sure.
I think you had to agree to the grant in order to get the loan or vice versa. You have to get
I forget the order.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
so they are attached together.
Chairman, I would make a motion to put this on the consent, to consider the approval of the project agreement amendment number 3 with the New Mexico Environmental Department for the loan agreement under the number Clean Water State, whatever fund?
Resource fund.
Resource Fund, yes. 097 for time extension for the Roswell wastewater plant dewatering facility.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried unanimously. We go to item number 12, New Mexico Department of Transportation Agreement, a trail connection CN 2104820. Is that you again?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, committee members, what you have before you is the project agreement with NMDOT for control number 2104820, which is the trail connection project between Spring River and Cielo Grande. So we received some funding from NMDOT for that project. The total award amount is $225,000, of which $192,240 is grant and a $32,760 match from city funds. This is already an approved budget item. It's already in the approved budget for this year. So this is just our ability to execute that cooperative project agreement with NMDOT. Stand for questions.
Any questions by committee members? Any questions of anybody?
Mr. Chairman, we've already budgeted $32,760 for this.
Is my understanding, yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Councilor Hildebrandt?
It was in the budget.
Okay. Councilor Arnold, do you have a question?
I was just gonna make a motion.
Okay, we're ready? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion and to recommend to approve a project agreement with the NMDOT for control number 2104820 for Spring River Cielo Grande Trail Connection construction with NMDOT to fund $225,000 and city match of $32,760 to be added to the consent agenda.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried unanimously. Next item is number 13, skate park design. There's a RFP award. And you're going to take this one as well.
Yes, sir. Chair, committee members, the city received a $450,000 grant from the state for design of a new skate park complex for the city. Sorry, let me get to my page.
I'll tell you which one it is.
Way too far. That grant is from New Mexico Regional Recreation Center Quality of Life. Our challenge with this one is a tight time frame. Our grant agreement says the monies must be used by June 30th, 2024. So we issued an RFQ for our on-call vendors for design services with the aim of obtaining bid plans, bid documents, engineering estimates to proceed for the design. These designs in the future would be used to bid construction of any implementation based on future construction funding. We received those quotes back. Upon review of quotes, we're recommending Bohannon Houston Incorporated as the vendor to perform those services. BHI's quote is $449,761.55, which includes GRT. And for any questions, I believe we also have some community advocates here that probably to this item.
Chairman, yeah, is Bohannon Houston going to be able to meet the deadline of the
They state that they
for
can.
the set of plans and everything?
You know,
My name's Lauren Cornick. I just wanted to say, I'm just here because we just wanted to get your guys' support on the whole thing, because we understand the deadline and how tight they are, but we're willing to do whatever we need to do to help raise the money, because of course, we're not asking for the funds from the city at all. We're trying to get them ourselves. And we actually were working on a 501c today, that can also take grants, or take not grants, but take donations for the skate park as well. So, you know, we are looking into other ways of doing it and everything. So that's all I have to say on it, but I hope you guys support it.
Yeah, and I'm here for that too. My name is Christine Smith. I went Roswell Roller Derby. And obviously we are really hoping that this goes through.
but right now we have the $450,000 grant, which is for the
Design only.
design. And then you guys will come in later with more money
Correct.
from wherever.
Yes, and then also too, I know with that grant, we talked about once there's a second part that we can apply to, the second part of that grant, which we can use for the construction Mr. Nahar was talking about to us as well.
Okay.
So there's like another step to it, as long as we meet the deadlines of the first part of it.
Any other?
So, Mr. Chairman, so this is just for the design that we've already received the funding for. Good job, guys. So when it comes time, when we have the design in hands, the funding for this project, you guys are going to be raising the money for that.
Correct.
Good stuff.
Well, that's what they're suggesting, but that doesn't mean that the city may not be able to help.
That'll be the second part to this once we
Yeah.
get there. If we're.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is another one I've been following for a good minute. Yes, Tori has been fabulous at keeping us informed, organizing, getting this stuff out there that we need to, so that, because they are actively engaged in trying to because a lot of times, here's what you have, we get the funding for design, we get the funding and we get projects and they end up in a drawer. So on this note, the conversation has been, it's not just about the design, it's keeping that flow going, because something to consider. Yes, this is the design. The governor actually responded to a beautiful letter she wrote. And before you know it, we were getting this funding through this project. And so what was it, 450? Yeah, okay. So it was very exciting to be a part of that. But I don't want to just look at the fact that we're doing design, because the whole other point is, yes, we're going to do design, but we need to start carrying these projects out. So this is something I want you guys to consider as capital outlay, because the other side of this is not just, it's a great opportunity because she's running a nonprofit that helps, gives opportunity to children in our community. She works like camps every month. She has events camps every month. But one thing people don't know about this community is we have about 2 or 3 sponsored professional skaters who have actually traveled the world internationally to compete. And it is their desire to have an annual event that is a competitive international event. They call it the UFO Bash. So this isn't just about a community, having a good place to go. This is also has the opportunity to bring GRT, to raise more funding. Everything I look at has to have an economic benefit as well. So I just wanted to put that out there that yes, this is just for design, but this is the precipice of where we have to get, and we will need additional funding out of capital outlay. And we have community members who are setting themselves up to contribute and be part of what we're doing. So I want to say that's the big picture of the whole thing.
And we have to keep in mind that when we go and start the CIP list.
Yep.
That depending on how important this project is, can we get it up to the top 5 in order to try and get more funding? and not just rely on the organization to try and get all the funding themselves.
No, that would be awesome, of course, you know.
Well, and I would say that I think if the governor, we didn't put this on our CIP, was for the governor to give us these funds for the design. I think that if she's doing this, that we get this deal done, that she'll probably follow through with the funding also, where we're not having to jump through that CIP.
I actually have a meeting set up too with the governor's office too this week. It's on Tuesday.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Good
just
stuff.
because she's been watching this project,
And I think the project is on the CIP, but it's not on the top 5. But I don't know, it's if we have the real short top 5, and then we used to have the short one, which was like 25 projects, and then the long one, which 300 plus.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend award of professional services to Bohannon and Houston, the amount of $449,761.55, which includes GRT for the City of Roswell Skate Park Complex design, and I recommend we put that on the consent agenda.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried unanimously. And the last action item that we have is item number 14, a PO request, Brashear asphalt pavement maintenance, and that's yours as well.
Yes, sir. Committee chairman, committee members.
Thank you, young ladies.
thank you guys, we appreciate it.
The city of Roswell was awarded a street improvement grant through NMDOT in the amount of $300,000. The grant agreements have already been through council and been signed. We're recommending that those funds be utilized to perform pavement maintenance and repair on a segment of the Roswell Air Center perimeter road. That segment of roadway was affected during the flood event in 2021. And it was also identified, and we'll have the potential to submit that through the State Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management for reimbursement. If that's granted, reimbursement would be 75% of the project cost, received at an unknown future date. In talking to our emergency manager, she's seen some of those reimbursements take 12 months longer.
Any questions, comments?
Chairman, yes, I got a question. You know, I'm looking at the numbers on the back right here. And, you know, I see a estimate of 260, 417. Then I see another GRT added to it here, and then this new total, and then use 300,000. Chairman, I just was wanting to know what the number is that we're looking at as far as this cost.
This is Lewis writing, he added, what was it, city GRT, it looks like?
Well, Chairman, the GRT's already added on there at 19,000, and this other GRT, I'm wondering, I'm
Yeah,
confused.
that's,
Yes, sir. Committee chairman, committee members, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, the total should be, so their Razor's estimate is 260. What we're recommending is a PO for 300,000 just to account for any overruns in material, any unknowns that we might encounter on that road project. I mean, obviously, we're not going to look to go over our grant amount of $300,000.
And I totally agree with the little contingency there. I just wonder why it's marked up that way. I just like to see good, transparent documents that show, you know, this is our amount. And if we wanted to go, and I say, if there's a $300,000 grant, go till we run out of money, till the very last foot of the project. And I'm all about that. I just like to see better numbers, and I don't want to see where it's, I don't know, I just like to see good numbers that make sense to any auditor, just because I think it's good accounting. And
yeah, yes, sir, understood.
So, Mr. Chairman, following up with those comments, I'll make a motion to consider a recommendation for PO payment maintenance overlay Fracture asphalt in the amount of 300,000, which includes GRT, to go to the full city council and not for the consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, but let me ask Councilor Hildebrand and City Manager, because I know there have been discussions that large amounts of money should be going through the finance. So is that the pleasure that we're looking at, or
It's not a requirement, but we'd ask that large amounts pass through there, to make sure that it fits inside the city budget. And that's where we ask them to go, to take the courtesy to send it there. Shall we say, it's not a requirement, but it's a courtesy to send it to finance. As I say again, to see that it fits inside our current budget is not correct.
So would it be proper for me to amend my motion to send it to finance and also, or just send it to finance?
Send it to finance.
my recommendation would be that we approve it to send it to finance, let them look at it. And then they make the recommendation whether to send it to full council without going to consent.
I'll second.
So it can be,
Okay, so I'll amend my original motion to make a motion to move it to finance, the finance committee.
I'll second that change.
so we've got a motion and a second, got it?
Yes.
Any further discussions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carried unanimously. And so that is the end of the regular items. Now we have department reports. And all the reports are in our packet.
Yes, sir.
And so unless committee members want to hear the report, we can ask the department heads to give us the report, or we go back and look at it, the information, and then can come back and ask questions at a later date.
All them.
Any objections to not hearing the reports?
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would say is if department heads think there's anything in these reports
Yes.
that we should be paying attention to, please tell us what those are so that we can, or just report on those things that are important to us.
Councilor Hildebrand?
Yeah, I do have a question. I'd like a follow-up from Abraham on how the roll-offs that we put in neighborhood communities, how does that program work? And what is our plan to continue that program? If there is a plan, and was it successful? Did we notify people? Roll-offs is going to be placed in strategic areas, certain areas of the community. Again, was it successful? And how do you measure the success? And are we going to continue doing it? Because we talk about sanitation or solid waste rules, making people put things in bags, tying things up. I drive around this community and I see things in front yards that are just atrocious. But we won't make people put their leaves in bags. Wait a minute. Let's start cleaning up the whole city, not just bagging leaves. So I got some issues with that whole process that we're going to be facing here. But I do want to know where, because those roll-offs will help people clean up their items in their yards. And some people may not have the means to take them out to the landfill. And so these roll-offs in certain areas will allow them to do that. What are we doing there?
So to start with the back end, Councilor, back into the leaves, and I think that's always been the last, since 1983. It's always been there, just never really been enforced. As a community.
Were you born before 1983?
Huh? So as a community, yes, we should all work together to kind of keep our community clean with the assistance of the city. So that is an ongoing issue for us daily. As far as containers going out of the communities, we had some positive success. We had some really good feedback. We're actually out there talking to the community, talking to individuals that were coming by. they like the opportunity to have them out there because they go to work or they work all week. They never have a time to get to the land. It's nice to have it within their neighborhoods. Did have a couple of issues with refrigerators that are in there, stuff that has refrigerants. Sure. We had to pull that stuff out. Tires, which are not supposed to be in there, some liquids not supposed to be in there. For example, motor oil. We pretty much have to fish those out. Overall, we had a pretty good success. And talking to Chad, we wanted to test them out. We did it 2 different areas and it's working out pretty good. I am having discussions with the grapple team, especially the supervisor, to put them ahead as they come into the, but we have to have them on city facilities. We can keep an eye on it. And the salaried staff will help throughout the week and we'll empty them as we can. So that is a good supplement to the existing grapple program that we can do. We do have the containers, we have the drivers. I think it's a great opportunity. I just haven't circled back with Chad and see if we can go ahead and continue doing that.
And these 2 locations are just experimental.
Yes, we wanted to try them out. One of them was on Garden, north of Goddard. Another one was at Cielo Grande. And we kind of kept an eye on it over the weekend. They did fill them up immediately, pretty quick. We got positive feedback over there. I stood there for entire Saturday and got good feedback from the community. Just kind of educating them on what you can throw in there, what you can't throw in there. That was the only issue we have. So it has been working out. We do have other facilities on the southeast and southwest that we can choose that are city sites. I haven't circled back with Chad to see if I can go ahead and continue that at his direction.
Okay. Councilor?
So Abraham, I know back when we had the floods and everything, that the county and city worked really well together, putting some of the rollouts out. I know we put some over there by the Elks swimming pool. The Elks gave the county and city permission to put them there. Are you seeing, I mean, with your new program that you have, what was the name of it again? Rubicon. Are you seeing any chronic areas in Roswell that are more than others on having to have your grappler trucks go pick stuff up out of the alleys?
Yes, unfortunately, yes, we do. We actually created a heat map that actually show us some of the areas that are chronic habitual offendees. You'll get loads in the middle of the alley where our garbage trucks actually have to stop. We got to call a grabber truck to clean it out. You'll have significant couches. I mean, you have half of a house, of an entire roof system. You have a lot of stuff. Like you have abandoned cars. You have a little bit of everything. So we do have habitual areas that we do look at, and we send those over to code enforcement. We try to work with them to kind of keep an eye on the area, and we keep an eye on the area as well.
Tires are a pretty big problem.
Yeah, they're expensive to dispose of, and they're expensive to transport, and they're labor intensive to load up and ship out. Well, you made a comment that you wanted to focus on some of the reports. If you look at it in your packet, in your Rubicon report, you'll look at our reports are a lot more extensive now. They're a lot more detailed. How many cans are they picking up per hour? How many miles are they driving? Day, week, month, tracking all that. Now, all those, when I look at the hours, I see miles, I see costs with the fuel. And also looking at in the Rubicon, if you look at that, there's issues that we report. You'll notice that we have a breakdown here for you. It'll say bulk items that are not out, items that are blocked, damaged container. We're tracking a lot of that stuff now. We have a really good stack of information that we can provide the county at any given time. It's page 243, 244, 245. And like I told some of the council, when you want to come out here doing operating hours, we'll show you the system live in use every day. You can see what's going on in real time. And that goes for the general public as well. If anybody wants to come and take a look at it, or the Roswell Daily Record as well.
I wish Mike hadn't left because, back probably 6 or 7 years ago, we had Barry Price. There was some people that were trying to do a deal with the tires so that they could use them to basically shred them and recycle them. I just don't know if that's being done anywhere in Albuquerque where they can be transported to. So
Tire disposal.
Yeah.
There's a company out of El Paso that buy and pick up all the tires. They have some facility in El Paso.
Shreds them and
Shop.
cycles them.
It's right at Chaparral and they ship
Yeah.
the majority to El
Yeah.
Paso.
So I know all the tire dealers, people who sell tires, use tires, stack them up. Wait for them.
Council.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question. City manager, about Peppermint Park, the pond itself.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I've got a lot of questions and I have no answers for anybody. And is there any status of what's going on with that?
So, yes and no. I've requested the staff, full work over Peppermint Park, starting with the irrigation system. Where in previous years, sprinkler heads were broken, they were not replaced, they were capped, we had dead spots all over the park. They've addressed that. I've also asked them to address the train tracks and the train itself. The train hadn't been started for several years. The train tracks had needed some replacement in particular areas, especially where they were driving over back and forth with some of the cars out there. So they have replaced the train tracks. They have replaced the spark plugs and put a carburetor kit in the train. Mr. Matthews, Mr. Itema, and myself and several others from the Parks Department went out and rode it about a week ago. Just like little kids, it took us right back to when we were kids.
All right.
We'll call you.
Okay.
But to your point, the pond, here's what we're aiming for. We're aiming to get the park back in good condition. That's the benches, the barbecues, the grass, the irrigation system, the train, the tracks. The well is the big question mark on the pond. So at some point, and I'm not looking to name names or blames, at some point, if the city had tapped into the city's potable water there off of Atkinson, was using that to regenerate the pond. The pond is not lined. The pond is not clay. There is some seepage there. Now it's at a low water level, water table area, but that well services the pond and has for many years. So when they shut down the well to dredge the pond, the well seized up, as tends to happen with our water. So at this point, the vendor is East Well Service. They've had the pump, from my understanding, maybe a little over. They're working on it. I've asked for a status update on that as soon as we know something. I'm told that I should know something in 2 weeks.
Wow. Nice.
So what we're aiming for is get the train, get the grounds, get the pond back up. The Mexico Game and Fish has agreed to, as long as we're not charging fees to enter the park, to stock the pond.
They've missed many opportunities too already, so.
Yes, sir. We're aiming for the spring. We want to have a really fantastic spring reopening there. We'd like to have that.
Annual fishing derby, everything.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome.
No charge.
That's music to my ears and I love to hear the balls rolling on that. Any way I can support or, seriously, that's.
We'll make sure and get you all involved, really at our council meetings. What I've been dying to do is brag on that team that has done so much work. You may have seen Ms. Harper with the Russell David Record has done some stories on it.
Nice.
But Rudy Chavez with our Parks Department, Randy, I want to say Gomez, we stole him from the county. He's our new maintenance supervisor for the facility at Peppermint Park. They have all, and Jim Burris, of course, leading the team, have all done really well, worked very hard, cleared the pond area that had been overgrown, et cetera. The next piece of this puzzle is getting the carousel right. As you know, the carousel was donated to the city of Roswell back in 1971, the year I was born. We haven't done much in terms of repairs and even basic maintenance on that. It is an antique. It is unique and special. The lights don't work and have not been replaced. The gearing system has some broken teeth that translates up through a drive shaft that breaks the nylon gear up top. They replaced the nylon gear. It still runs too fast. We're looking at a variable speed motor that could address that. We've got community artists that are working on our figurines, the ponies, et cetera. We've got 4 of those in process right now. There's a completed one, number 5, at the library. It's gorgeous if you want to go check that out. That's something we can replace those figurines and kind of swap out over the years.
So we still have the replacements on hand. That is awesome.
Exactly.
Those were relics.
They are, they're beautiful. Perfect. Yeah. And so that carousel, to get it right, to get it safe, and the uniqueness of it is going to take a little more time. And quite frankly, we need a new budget year to address some of those issues as well. But the goal right now is pond, train, grounds, concession by spring.
You made my day. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead, Rita, public comment.
Mr. Chair, counselors, Rita Kane Dorhofer, very narrow, unstriped, county resident. All right, I still have issues with the toilets and the trash. For a city-sponsored event, is the visitor center going to be open for the hours of it so people can go in there and use the toilets and not 2, but 3 of them? And for the trash, is there going to be trash picked up for the UFO? That's the big thing. If nobody has ever been down there, number one, people don't like to go into porta potties. Even the ones from Prestige, the red ones on the trailers. And when on Sunday, the visitor center is not open. When I am down there on a Sunday morning or afternoon, I don't know where to tell people to go. On a Monday, when they are not open, I send them to all the city facilities. I tell them the library, city hall. But, you know, if we are a tourist town, don't you think we need to open up the toilets? If we are a tourist town, don't you think we need to pick up trash? Especially at our big events. Okay, it's way past my bedtime. I'm done.
Well, you know, looking back historically, the visitor center, the reason that they put in 2 additional bathrooms was for the visitors downtown.
At $100,000.
Well, I don't know what the price was.
Trust me, it was $100,000.
But that was the whole purpose of it.
Yes, but now we have one of the toilets, one is used as a storage or this and that. We need to get that stuff out of there and get 3 toilets. I mean, I can go in downtown during any of these events and the shop owners will let me go to the bathroom because they know me. But what about our visitors? How long are they going to stay here if they have to go to the bathroom? There are no toilets and trash. You don't want to get me started on trash.
Okay, we won't.
Okay. But I'll be there.
Anybody else? If not, and if there's no objection, this meeting is adjourned at 7:08.
I was going to make a motion, but you already got it.
This conference will now be recorded.
James, thanks, man. Good job.